What is going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing great. I'm at the shop on a Sunday. I was supposed to come here and deliver a car to the customer. They picked up the vehicle. I kind of just got busy, doing some stuff that I had to do tomorrow, which I figured, I'm here, might as well. Because I have no one life, as most of you guys know, when you own a business, kind of takes over your life, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, you gotta be able to balance it out. Unfortunately, I'm not at that balance point yet. But I mean, it is a new business, so you gotta strive. If you wanna, be the greatest and have everybody trust you with the work you do and just provide quality work, you gotta grind for a while. It means not taking weekends, not having any days off, not sleepless nights and stuff like that. For as long as it takes until you reach your goal, and then you gotta still keep grinding after that to stay on the top. I'm not saying I'm on the top or anything like that, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's a mentality, like you gotta be willing to hustle every single day, day in and day out, even if if it's 16, 18-hour days, even if you don't get to sleep much at night. If you wanna make it, and if you wanna be known, if you wanna make a name for yourself, you gotta grind it out. But anyway, that being said, got a couple things going on at the shop here. We got a bunch of things going on at the shop here, actually. First and foremost, made some parking space for myself, so now I can park 3 cars over there and 1 car over here. Then I have 1 over here as well, so 5 cars in total. So whenever we close up shop, we can have another car over here and maybe 2 blocking the entrance, and obviously we're gonna have to move them around. But I'm thankful for that, because the space is very small, so that by itself gives me some more room to store some cars. But anyway, this is Ray's car. I originally built this motor about 2 years ago. It has about 5,000 miles on the setup. He had some issues with the oil dumping into the catch can from the back. And long story short, very unfortunate situation, but he was running low on oil. He went and he basically gave the car a little bit of throttle, about 3 quarts of oil in the sump. Unfortunately, spun a bearing on number 1, so we're pulling the motor apart. Obviously, I dropped the pen and we looked at it to make sure it is what we think it is, and of course it was. So he's just gonna get new piston rings. We're gonna refresh the motor. The short block's gonna go to my machine shop. Everything's gonna get checked over. He obviously needs a new crank, because as most of you guys know, I don't grind these crankshafts. So we're just gonna use another good OEM unit. And then we're gonna retune it when the dyno gets here. He's on an FP0. Previously, this car made 740 on my Mustang dyno, about 42 pounds, and then I turned it up on the street about 45, 46 pounds. So very nice little setup, and this is on an MR, by the way, as most of you guys know from the fins. You can tell that's a 6-speed. So it's a beautiful setup. S3s, my 2.0 long rod setup. All that stuff's gonna get reused, aside from that 1 rod that obviously had that bearing failure because it got so hot that the rod discolored. So obviously we can't use that. The other 3 rods are good, so we're gonna source 1 Manly I-beam 156 mil with the CA custom age ARP 625 bolts, which is what I used to use when I used the Manly stuff. Now we just use CP Carrillo and Calis, but since he has that, I don't want to make him pay for a new set of rods. And the pistons, obviously, we are gonna have to go a slight bit looser on the piston to wall, because it is gonna have to get honed again, but we're not gonna change the piston size. So we're probably gonna end up right at like 4th thou piston to wall, which is still acceptable. Still not gonna be loud, or it's not gonna clank and piston slap or any of that undesired stuff. And obviously our pistons are coated too, so that kind of helps with that too, quiet it down. So that's that. This motor is gonna get taken apart. I just pulled it out today. We got Austin's GTR over here. He's getting some RD800 turbo, so we're gonna drop the motor. I haven't gotten around to do that yet. I haven't actually done anything on the car. It's just on the lift. So I like to finish 1 project and then move on to the next. So once this becomes a roller today, I'm gonna start working on this. So this is gonna become a roller, go out. We're gonna have a car cover on it, until all this stuff comes back from the machine shop and we assemble it and put it back in the car. So Austin's 2016 GTR. It looks better than it probably did when it was new. I mean, this car is immaculate. He keeps his cars very, very clean. the camera probably doesn't do any justice, but this car literally looks like it just came off the showroom floor. So it's pretty much stock. We are going to do downpipes and turbos on it, but that's pretty much it. And then I have another GTR being dropped off tomorrow, Monday. That's going to be our customer David. He's dropping his GTR off. The car makes 1250 right now to the tire. He did have a headlift incident, so we're gonna upgrade to, he's still on the OEM gaskets and OEM head bolts, which are pretty strong. The OEM head bolts are pretty strong, but you know, things can go wrong. Injector being clogged, spark plug doesn't fire on time. I mean, just so many things that can happen with these cars when you're pushing that much power through them, these engines I should say. So we're gonna upgrade to GT1R T1 spec head gaskets, upgrade to some 625 plus custom age head studs, and obviously the cylinder heads are going to get machined, refreshed with new guides and new seals from GSC, so you guys are going to get to see all that. I'm actually going to try to film at the machine shop as well, so you guys kind of get an idea of what goes on, how they do the valve job, how they resurface the head, you know, all that kind of stuff, because I know you guys like a lot of technical content, so we're going to do that. And a couple years ago at JRP, I actually posted a VR38 teardown. But this time I'm probably gonna dedicate a video to the teardown and reassembly of the VR38, so you guys kind of see how it's timed and everything. It's very well documented. I mean, you guys can find it online. I'm sure there are videos now too of how to time it and this and that. It's very simple actually. It's not really hard. It's just you know, there's a lot more parts and stuff that are involved with the engine than compared to like a 4G63 or a 4B11. So that's pretty much it. Or else, you know, it's a VR38 is just like any other engine. As long as you know the engine, it's not hard to work on. No engine is hard to work on, guys. So that's what we're gonna do. And then whenever we actually drop the motor and take the heads off, we're actually gonna straight edge the actual deck on the block to make sure that it's not warped. Because if it is, then that's a whole different story. That's a whole different invoice. The customer is gonna pay a lot more money, obviously, because we have to tear everything apart. The block has to get decked and, you know, all that kinds of stuff. So hopefully we don't run into that, but if we do, that's gonna be another video for you guys. But if not, that's kind of the plan. So we got that. I ended up tuning Manny's car. It made 803 and 575 torque at 40 pounds of boost flat. And that's with very conservative timing. That's about 14 and a half degrees. And this is a 9-to-1 compression motor. So that's kind of what I run on the 10-to-1s. So yeah, there's still a lot of potential for this car, but I figured, you know, I'll give him that for now and let him enjoy the power until he kind of gets used to it, because 800 horsepower all-wheel drive is no joke, as some of you guys that have had 800 horsepower Revos already know. You know, it'll definitely scare you, and if you don't know how to drive it, you can definitely kill yourself, if not hurt yourself. So that's that, man. He's gonna come pick it up. We actually had an alternator failure as he was driving back, so now it's only holding 8 volts, so obviously that's not good. Nothing's, you know, the ECU's kind of tripping out at this point. So we're gonna replace the alternator, the shifter cable, and then that car is done, man. He can pick it up and enjoy his car. He did a couple pulls in the car and he absolutely loved it compared to his previous setup at higher boost on the EFR 9174. This one definitely scared him. So maybe we'll get a little customer interview from Manny as well. So that's what I got going on. I'm gonna start tearing this apart. I'm gonna give you guys an update when I'm actually in that engine, like actually working on it. Over here we got an engine that was shipped to us. So this engine is going back to Kenya. So this was a dart and sleeve motor, had a valve failure unfortunately, and took out one of the pistons. So we're doing a full long block build actually. That's a cylinder head that's going to our machine shop, and then torque plate that we provide to the machine shop. They don't really need it because they have a torque plate, but I always provide it anyway. And oops, that didn't go as planned. It's a brand new GSC valves, GSC valve train. Like I said, this is going to Kenya. So they don't have great fuel over there, so he opted for 9-to-1 compression pistons instead of the 10-to-1s that I regularly do. And if you guys also notice, there's no vertical gas ports, only horizontals. That's because, you know, pump gas can actually clog these up pretty bad. So yeah, a little bit lower compression to make the tuning a little bit safer. You know, we can make power safer with that. He does use an additive, but with the additives, to really know if a car is actually knocking or not. I mean, on a stock ECU, it's kind of easy to distinguish between false knock and actual knock, because you know there are parameters you can log. I mean, there's like knock voltage and stuff like that. However, the best way to do it is to use a detonation can, and the best one that I've found so far is the Plex V2 knock monitor that I'll do a demonstration on soon when the dyno gets here probably. And that basically allows me to do a run with like no timing and like super rich air fuel ratio, wastegate boost, and kind of draw a graph, visual graph that we can have on the Plex monitor right there, aside from our actually knock sensing that happens with a factory or a standalone ECU. And then we can draw that floor and we can adjust it to match the engine noise level, because obviously engines are noisy. It's the noise that you pick up from knock that will usually overstep the threshold and consider that to be knock. So that's usually the best way to go on about it. But like I said, with the octane boosters and stuff like that, yeah, you can rely on the factory sensor for the most part, but whenever you actually change the bore size and you change the compression ratio, or you have a looser motor now, obviously when you build the motors, you're using 2618 alloy, you're not using any like hyper-eutectic pistons like that it comes from the factory with a bunch of silicone, super low expansion rates. Everything's different now. Even if you run it super tight, you're still at 3.5 thousandths piston to wall. It's still going to be a little bit more noisy, not noise that you can hear, but a noise that the computer, the ECU can pick up. So it becomes very tricky to rely on the factory knock sensor if you don't have an actual deck can hooked up to the car to actually graph a nice line for you, so you can kind of like plot it out and figure out if it's actual knock or not. With that being said, that's why I told him to go with the 9-to-1 setup instead of the 10-to-1 setup, because it's just going to be a little bit safer, because they run pump gas with a Torco additive. So that's pretty much it. Obviously you guys are going to get to see that go together. Other than that, there's a couple other things that I want to talk about, but that's going to be for later. So today we're just going to focus on taking Ray's motor completely apart, tearing it down to the bottom, bare short block, looking over everything. Obviously the bearings don't look great, but we want to check the piston to wall, the cylinder walls, to see how they look at the piston rings, look at the skirts of the piston, look to see if there's any detonation signs or anything, because I did tune this engine. So that'll kind of give me an idea of how everything else was set up. Obviously we can't really rely on the bearing clearance or data on the bearings, because it has spun bearings now, and it has one spun bearing, but it did travel through the system, so kind of destroyed all the bearings. But yeah, so I'll see you guys in a couple seconds. What is going on, guys? Ronnie here from SpeedLab. Today's Saturday. I haven't really been filming for the past 4 days or 3 days. Got a lot of stuff done. I actually dropped Austin's GTR motor. We did the RD800 turbos on his and some other maintenance items. It's almost fully back together. Just did spark plugs. So for the spark plugs, you have to remove the upper portion of the intake manifold, which is just a couple vacuum hoses, and the wiring harness just gets detached from the back. There's two like clips, and then there's one like little tab that you got to release and take it off of the upper portion of the intake manifold. And once you take that off, it's just 8-10 millimeter bolts. So replaced with OEM plugs, gapped at whatever Ronnie at RD wanted us to gap it to, because he's a guy that tunes these cars for me and for most of my clients. Most of this stuff's back together. Just got to put the cowl and all the other stuff back on, the upper intercooler piping with the blow-off valves and stuff like that. David's GTR is also here. I believe I talked about that one. He actually had a head gasket failure, so we're gonna take the heads off, and we're gonna have to, well, the heads obviously have to get sent out, but we got to make sure they're not cracked or anything crazy like that. And at the same time, we're gonna straight edge the block, make sure the surface is flat and not warped, because if it is, then all that, the whole bottom end has to come apart. So that one I'll film. We got a new guy starting work here on Monday, so you guys will get to meet him. And he's going to be helping me out a lot, so it's going to be easier for us to start filming more, and especially technical content like this, it's going to be easier with 2 people to do. So I just wanted to touch base and show you guys what's what over here. So I'm wrapping this up, and got a couple other things I got to take care of today, which I don't know if they'll be worth filming. We got a 440i that's coming in for a boot mode shelf tune. I'm not tuning that. It's a shelf tune that we got to put on the vehicle. But other than that, there isn't much else going on right now. I'm just gonna wrap up this GTR. So for turbos, obviously, as you guys, can tell, I did take the engine apart. Like I said, I mean, the engine out. The turbos are tucked away. They're pretty hard to get to. Well, it's impossible to get to if the engine's in the car, so it does have to get dropped. It is pretty labor intensive, but it's not the hardest job in the world. I actually enjoy doing this. So yeah, I'm gonna see you guys. I'm probably gonna post this video with the PTFE stuff that we talked about, and it should be a pretty lengthy video as is, and then next week we'll film more on the other GTR and the other couple projects that we got coming here. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. All right, what's going on, guys? Ronnie here, SpeedLab. It's been like over a week, I think, since I last filmed here. We've had so much going on here that I haven't had the chance to pick up the camera and film. I actually want you guys to meet somebody here. This is our tech, Artin. What's going on, Artin? How you doing, brother? Good. So Artin is pulling the cylinder head off of this Evo 10, and this car actually had a timing cover leak as well. This was an 08, so they did a timing chain on it, and whoever did it, they didn't seal it up right, and they also had an oil pan leak, so figured we'd take care of everything as we're taking the head off. So this is getting a built head. Down the road he's gonna get a built motor as well, so that's what Artin's doing. It's pretty much ready to come off. He's just taking the cam caps off for the exhaust cam at this point. The turbo's released, the intake manifold's pulled back, everything's pretty much detached. So he has to do that. He has to take this guide off, and that's pretty much it. He can go ahead and unbolt the Torx bolts that are holding the cylinder head on there. Over here we got Daniel's car. This car came to us from up north, Sacramento, I believe. And he was in for camshaft install, Moroso oil pan, intake manifold, the skunk tune intake manifold, and a bunch of little stuff like STM catch can and stuff like that. This car is on a AM Infinity flex fuel. It's actually on a very nice setup. He has a EFR kit, BorgWarner 8374. Unfortunately, when we took the pan off, we noticed some metal shavings in there, and well, as soon as we saw that, we made a phone call to him, sent him some pictures, and obviously when you see metal shavings, it's not the best thing in the world. So yeah, we're seeing some Babbitt material, so I'm gonna tear this down right now. We just got it on the engine stand, pulled the motor yesterday. So yeah, he's getting one of our SPL 900 short blocks, and his head seems to be in good condition, but obviously all the cylinder heads that we take apart go to the machine shop. Another thing that we always do, guys, is we block off this EGR port. I've talked about it before, so this allows us to use that plastic spacer, which increases the plenum size a little bit, but not only that, it also reduces the intake air temps. Whether you use a stock gasket or the plastic one, if this is blocked off, you don't get the hot exhaust gases coming here, so helps a little bit with intake temps, air temps, helps make power ultimately. That was that. And his belt, he also had a carbon fiber timing cover, upper timing cover. He has the T167 belt from Gates, and the carbon fiber, well, they're fiberglass, pretty much. They're not carbon fiber, just has a imprint of carbon fiber on top of it, so it's like an overlay of carbon fiber, but it's actually fiberglass. Anyway, it had a lip and it tore through the belt, and obviously when we were about to do the cams, we saw this. This was before we even pulled the pan to look at everything else when we were installing the oil pan. So yeah, we saw this, and that was a big red flag as well. So we told him he needs a belt. Went ahead and installed the camshafts, and then we did the oil pan last, and that kind of threw everything off. So we should have probably done that first, but it's okay. The good thing is he already has a bunch of the stuff that we use in our builds anyway. He has the 625 ARP custom age head studs. He has the regular washer, so we're gonna go ahead and provide him with our washers that are about 22% wider. So yeah, that's why you guys are seeing assembly lube on the camshafts, because they're literally just installed. So yeah, this is Anthony's car, beautiful car. He actually just painted this, so it's a very nice car. So he's gonna get the built head, and then later on he's gonna go for the SPL 900 short block for the Evo 10 sleeve short block. Cliff's car, this car, we figured out the issue. The map sensor was not reading, and it was driving me nuts. Thankfully, with the help of another colleague, I actually, we went ahead and figured out the issue. What this was is the map sensor was not getting sensor ground signal. So once we grounded the intake mat, sorry, let me just show you guys. So once we went ahead and grounded that black wire off the map sensor, off the harness to the map sensor, to the manifold, we got a signal, so we knew that it was a sensor ground issue. So we tapped it into the intake air temp sensor, which also has a sensor ground, and now it's, you know, it's perfect. We just got to clean up that harness and did some drivability tuning. Big shout out to Sam. Sam from AEM, he helped me out with the wiring and everything, and you know, big shout out to him because I was kind of running out of ideas at that point. Bled the brakes and everything. Like I said, did some drivability. The car drives great. This is a 3576 car, one of our built motors in it, so sleeve short blocks, ported head, fully built head, S2 cams, I believe. So yeah, it's dirty, so our mobile detail guy is gonna come here tomorrow and clean this up, and yeah, we should be hitting the dyno sometime next week with this thing. Got my Supra over here, we got Ray's car over here, we got this Evo that now belongs to me. So this is a car that I actually built at JRP, Fangy's car. So what happened with this vehicle was, this car was an AM Infinity, and his crank harmonic damper is pulley sheared off, and the AEM, okay, so it sheared off, sliced the oil filter in half. The AEM Infinity caught the oil pressure being dropped, cut power, because I set it at 0 RPM, so it completely shuts engine power if it drops oil pressure, and they didn't know what was happening, so they were on the side of the freeway, you know, trying to crank the car over with no oil pretty much for like 10-15 minutes. Not their fault. But yeah, unfortunately hurt the bearings, so he actually wanted to get out of the car scene, and I got the opportunity to, you know, buy the car, and it's a beautifully built car. So I still don't know what I'm gonna do with it, if I'm gonna keep it as a shop car or if I'm gonna do something else and maybe possibly get a GTR this time around. I don't know yet, but that's pretty much what we got going on here. We also tore another Evo 10 motor apart, Ricardo's car, all of which you guys are gonna get to see updates on. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and also, I don't know if you guys remember David's GTR. I don't know if I ever talked about that, but he had a head gasket issue. This was a Schweitzer 1300 package. When we took it apart, we saw some things that we didn't like. Well, first and foremost, the block was actually warped about 6 thou, which is, you know, the maximum limit that you can have it warped. And you can resurface this, but the heads have already been resurfaced, so if these are going out to get resurfaced and this is going out to get resurfaced, that's kind of, you know, you're kind of past the service at that point, in my book at least. But that wasn't what concerned me the most. What concerned me the most was all the stuff that we're seeing in the cylinder. So there's a lot of scuffing, and this is just from dirt getting in the motor, but you know, some machine shops have special honing stones for these guys, because this is pretty much like a plasma spray that gets sprayed onto the cylinder. So these aren't actual like normal liners that you would find in a you know, like an Evo 10 or like a, you know, obviously not a cast iron block, so not like, definitely not like the Evo 8.9s. But some other things that we noticed, one of the pistons had pretty bad detonation damage on the top over here, so the deck grooves were completely gone. And then again, a bunch of crap getting inside the engine. The rings were starting to anneal, so they were all over the place. One of them was at like 18 thou on the top ring, one of them was at like 26. Unfortunately, the only thing that we can reuse are the rods, so these are going to go to our machine shop. As you guys can see, there's some, you know, heat marks over here. So what happens is, you know, when the oil gets wiped from underneath the pin, this kind of gets ovaled and it starts beating on this bronze bushing over here. So this is gonna get rebushed. Crank looks okay, checked it, it was straight. My machinist is gonna check it again. The bearings didn't look so hot either. So this was at the time that King or ACL, no, I mean, I don't even know if ACL offers bearings for the VR30, I'm sure they do, but this was built a long time ago, guys. So, you know, they were using OEM bearings in the builds, which is no problem. People still do that, and that's perfectly fine because pretty good bearings, but you know, they're not the PMAX coats, obviously. And you know, there were some deep grooves in some of them. Again, crap getting into the oil. Same thing with the rod bearings. The good thing about the OEM bearings are they have great embeddability, so all the crap just gets smashed into the bearing, but it doesn't, you know, grab the crank. So yeah, this is gonna, so we ordered a new block. That new block's getting here sometime next week, probably Wednesday, and then we're gonna order some graded pistons. And these engines are, these engines aren't like your typical engines that, you know, you can torque plate it, like I said, if you have the proper honing stones, and you can take some material off and go slightly bigger. But the biggest thing with a GTR is it has graded pistons. So if you look on the back of the block, it'll actually have numbers. So you guys see how it says 2 all the way across? So these are grade 2 pistons. And this will determine your piston to wall clearance, ranging anywhere between 3.2 to 3.9 thou. And so these pistons are actually made to be ran in a bore that's not completely round, guys. So that's something about the VR30S that's super interesting. I think I talked about it before in the JRP disassembly video, like 3 years ago. But anyway, that's what we're getting. We're getting a brand new oil pump. So that's going to be something exciting. This was a Schweitzer car, like I said. Made 1300, I believe, 13 something like that. It's on a Cyvex standalone. So 3576s, old school, but great turbos. So that's also very interesting. And you guys are going to get to see that. So for right now, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you guys a shop update, have you guys meet Art. And yeah, we're gonna tear this 4G63 down, and we're gonna pretty much just give you guys an update on the 4G63 when we take it apart. Same thing with the Evo 10 over there when he's taking apart. So
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we just also want to wish you guys and your families a very Merry Christmas. Thank you to all of our followers and, you know, subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching our videos all the time. It's a blessing to have you guys on board. Whether you guys are clients or just, you know, people that are following the videos and stuff, it means a lot. So thank you. We'll see you guys in a minute.